she's based out of the University of Kansas Medical Center. She's actually part of the network of the National Library Medicine Region 3. And she's the community engagement coordinator. She used to be the technology consultant at Central Kansas Library System, so she understands what you guys are going through. So she teaches a variety of classes and has a passion for connecting people with reliable health information resources. Before we get started, what I want to say is one of the reasons that we're trying to get a variety of people today to speak is I wanted to introduce you to different representatives of community organizations that you can work with. We did get the $220,000 grant from DOC that we applied for. So we will have about $70,000 of emerging equipment or emerging technology such as 3D printers, VR equipment, AR stuff, and a variety of laser engravers and other things. So we're going to get some, we'll call them toys, but we're going to get some tools that other organizations might not have access to. So what I'm hoping that today is going to be, in beginning with Marty, is allow us to go ahead and find out what these organizations can do for you, and then I'll work with them, and then you figure out what your patrons are wanting, and we can try to take advantage and do the best we can, especially this next year for the grant, which basically will start in July 1st. But one thing that I will have for you guys is I'm going to be hiring 80 hours of contracted workers or contracted digital navigators that are going to be able to help out with some of the programming. And that's probably I wrote the grant because I wanted the toys, but when I was told that I couldn't get $250,000 worth of toys, I discovered that the concept of having these digital navigators to help you do some things that you might not be able to do with your limited staff, that is a big part. And then we also went ahead and we're going to have about $40,000 of software that will help us out with digital literacy as well. So I'm hoping that today is going to be very useful for you, and I'll go ahead and let Margie, I apologize.
I'm a Margaret Mary. My dad gave me that name a long time ago. So anyway, well, thank you so much. And hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here today. I see some familiar faces. When I was with CPLS, I came down here a couple times, once to meet with Jason. He taught me how to use Koha. He was certainly helped me a lot. Yeah, I never really learned all the ins and outs of it, but between he and George, I didn't do too badly. So anyway, and I came down here a couple times with Mary Beth Schaefer, who's now the director at the Great Bend Public Library. So when it's true, I do understand what you guys are up against. When I was there, I went to libraries that had, or cities that had, towns that had less than 100 people. Maybe they were open 15 hours a week, had one full-time librarian. While we didn't do too much with Hayes and Salina, those are the bigger ones, and as well as Great Bend. But so I kind of get it, and I know your struggles, and I know what you're dealing with, old buildings, limited budgets, etc. But today I'm going to show you quite a few things that I think will help you. I'm just going to kind of back up a little bit. So first of all, let me just do a couple things here. I want to first of all, thank Darren for inviting me to come here today, as well as the other Seckles folks. It's always nice to kind of come home to a place that you're familiar with. And when I started thinking about this presentation, and I knew the name was Innovation Day, I kind of had to do a little thinking about what I knew about innovation. I know for a fact that public librarians are the most innovative people on the planet. I cannot tell you how many times I marveled at a group of librarians that would take maybe a stack of yarn, some paper plates, some glue, and some glitter, and turn it into something inventive and wonderful. I mean, it just blew my mind. And so with that, I kind of started thinking about, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to be innovative? Well, so there's 4 different phases of innovation. One of them is the idea phase. So that's where you get the birth of your innovative ideas. It's like, what are we going to do next? And so once the idea is born, then we move on to, well, let's validate it. And I think I heard it mentioned, like, what do your patrons need? You know, who are our community members and what can we do that's going to help them the most? And then the next part is how are we going to implement it? So we're going to turn our ideas into the reality. And then finally, we're going to scale that. So how can we maximize the impact? So since citizen science projects are born from all those things, ideas, experimenting with ways to validate ideas, implementing a project and by calling for citizen scientists like you all and the people in your communities, we maximize our impact. So I don't know, how many of you know that you as just people here in Kansas, Southeast Kansas, yeah. Did you know that you can impact not only environmental, but health and wellness initiatives by helping scientists with their work? But did you know that? Did you know you have the capability of doing that? Well, you do, if you didn't know that. So, that's why I kind of thought it might be a really good idea to approach this from citizen science. And when I was asked, it's like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. So there's so many fun ideas and really engaging projects out there that I hope by the end of this conversation that we're going to have today, that you can take those back and, do a little bit of work to put those in your libraries. And I can tell you, I know for a fact that libraries are the perfect place for this because you're the community hub. People trust you and you're the ones that look at what's needed and then you act on it by doing things like bringing citizen science or laser centers or whatever you've got out there to show your patrons and the community at large. Right, so before I really get into this, I need to kind of just tell you about where I work and who are the people that I work with. So the National Institutes of Health, many of you may have heard of it recently in the news. It's the nation's leading medical research agency. There's 27 institutes and offices within that, and the National Library of Medicine is one of those. It's the largest biomedical library out there. Not only do they maintain a big print collection, but we also are the providers and maintainers for digital resources like Medline Plus and PubMed. NLM, who I work for, the network of the National Library of Medicine, is the field force for NLM. So we get out and do things like this. We educate people. We talk about health information, help address the health literacy concerns and even issues with the digital divide. There's 7 regional libraries in centers and 5 centers across the United States. And I work for Region 3, so we serve you guys in Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Nebraska. So here's our map. You can see us, we're right down there in the middle. So you can see we have quite a few miles to cover. So I'm the only one that's up in the Kansas area. The rest of the folks are down in Texas where the funding comes from. All right, so today, here's our agenda. So I'm going to give you an introduction to citizen science because I think sometimes it's a little confusing. We're also going to talk a little bit about crowdsourcing. And then I'm going to give you some examples of different projects that are currently going on and talk about the level of participation, because I always think that's something that's a little scary, like how much do we need to do? And then we're going to talk about citizen science and how it relates to health and the NNLM and why we're even involved in it. And then the most important part is how you can bring citizen science and crowdsourcing into your library. So I have a question for you guys, and if you haven't been involved, that's perfectly fine. I just kind of want to get an idea. So how many of you have ever taken part in a citizen science project? Which one, what was it?
It was years and years ago, and it was germs. We had kids touch different surfaces around the library and then took samples and put them in petri dishes and then put them up on a big like styrofoam board installation
Oh, that's cool.
and let it sit for about a month, and it was super gross, so we threw it away.
That's great. That is so cool. So, all right. So, okay, well, that's all right. You know, we're gonna learn some things. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll pick up on one of these projects. So here's a little bit about me. I first became interested in citizen science. This is a while ago. So I lived in a community very close to the Cheyenne Bottoms. So like I mentioned, it was Great Bend. And that happens to be not only a waterfowl refuge, but it's also on the migratory path for monarch butterflies. And so they also are kind of a center or a circle for the great, of the Audubon Christmas bird count. So I got involved in that. And then really learned more about monarch butterfly migration and started to think about introducing that non-invasive milkweed into my garden in Great Bend because they need food to make that journey. So after I joined NNLM, this was in 2019, I was tasked with getting involved in citizen science. And that's when I learned about how many projects there are out there that are really very cool. And, you know, just as a person that's sitting in front of my computer screen, I can make an impact. And so it really kind of got me hooked from there. And I met a lot of really cool people to help with that curiosity. So here are some of the things that Cheyenne Bottoms is involved with. They are the home of the Kansas Wetlands Education Center. And they take part in the Christmas bird count. You know, they have a circle there. They also have encouraged people to use eBird. And what this is a platform to record and upload sightings of the different birds that are migrating through the area. And then this information is used for research on not only just the populations, but migration patterns. So that's pretty cool that you can do that from Kansas. And then Frog Watch, I think this is really cool too. They have a program that people could go out and monitor amphibian populations and then add that data collection according to certain protocols to their website. And Frog Watch, I think it's like kids really like that one. They think that's a fun one. And then Chronologue, the Friends of Cheyenne Bottoms use this project for people that are out in that area to go out and take pictures of the bottoms, and then they upload those onto it so they can track the changes of Cheyenne Bottoms over time to see how the environment is being affected. And of course, they're involved in World Migratory Bird Day. Okay, so what is citizen science and what are crowdsourcing projects? So while this term might be new to some of you, it's been around for quite some time. You know, scientists throughout history and researchers have leveraged the power of the people to get their work across the finish line and to make some really valuable breakthroughs in history and in history, but it is history in research. And think of the saying, many hands make light work. This is the idea behind it. So first, like, what is citizen science? Well, the EPA has a really good definition. And what it says is that citizen science uses the collective strength of communities and the public to identify research questions, collect and analyze data, interpret results, which is really important, make new discoveries, develop technologies and applications. Now, on the other hand, crowdsourcing is a little bit different, but let's look at that too. So it involves an open call for volunteers, and this is to provide information or help solve a particular problem. And a large group could be a known group, or it might just be trusted individuals. But one of the things about crowdsourcing, it doesn't necessarily have to involve a scientific discovery. So for an example, you've probably all heard of GoFundMe. Well, that's a perfect example of a non-scientific crowdsourcing project. But I wanted to tell you, this is really interesting. In 2024, citizen scientists have had quite a few groundbreaking discoveries. And I'm going to read these off because I don't have them memorized. But some of the discoveries were mapping the fruit fly brain. Now think how tiny that is. Discovering a potentially habitable exoplanet. That's pretty cool. Finding 144 species of lost birds that hadn't been observed in at least 10 years. somebody out there spotted a hypervelocity object the size of a small star traveling 1 million miles an hour, uncovering, and also they uncovered the importance of car transport and the spreading of hitchhiking invasive ant species, and learning that cats that fetch are much more common than we thought. So that's some of that stuff that's happened last year. That's pretty cool. My cat doesn't fetch. So one way to think about citizen science is, it usually has three components. So one of them, there's an existing project. And then we need public participation, and there's also always some technology involved. So the Citizen Science Association has a pretty simple way of defining, citizen science. And it just says the involvement of the public in scientific research, whether community-driven research or global investigations. So that's a really good way to sum it up. And if we want to dig a little bit deeper, SciStarter, which is an organization I'm going to talk to you about a little bit more later on in the presentation, talks about 4 features that we need for a citizen science project. One is that anybody can take part in it. Participants all need to be using the same protocol so we can have common data collection. The data that is collected can help scientists come to real conclusions. That's what we want. And that the wider community of scientists and volunteers all work together to come up with a common answer, and that the public and scientists all have access to it. So we can think about citizen science in a lot of things. It's not just, it's really broad. Astronomy projects, zoology projects, ecology projects, health projects, let's see, medicine, engineering. So you have an interest, you can probably find a project to take part in. Okay, so if we do this correctly, we all need to be on the same page when we talk about citizen science. And there's 10 principles that were created out of the need to kind of make sure we had some common, where everybody was on common ground. So the European Citizen Science Association came up with these principles, and I just want to really briefly review them because I think it kind of brings to mind some of the things we need to think about when we're becoming scientists. So the first one is really self-explanatory. It's the idea is that we're, discovering something new. There's new knowledge out there or understanding that's going to result from this. And number 2, there really should be a genuine scientific outcome that's in mind. And this might be a research discovery, or maybe it's even our goal is just to change some kind of policy out there. And then everybody should benefit. So not only the participants and the scientists, but the public at large. And what would a benefit be? So if I was the scientist, maybe I'm going to publish my research. If I'm a citizen, or if I'm just a person that's taking part, maybe I'm just enjoying the learning opportunity, or maybe it's that part of the social benefit of being with a lot of people that think like I do or want to discover something. Or maybe it's just that satisfaction that you get from being part of something scientific. And then 4, we want to participate. We want people to participate or feel like they're encouraged to participate at all levels. So not just you guys go out and collect the data, but maybe be part of making the question, or how are we going to do it? Or, what is it that we really need? And then, everybody that's involved, they should also be able to know how the data is going to be used that they're collecting. So that's the feedback part of this. And then, the research approach. So there should be, research like anything. And I've learned this, the longer I'm in academic librarianship and working with this kind of thing, there's always some limitations and there's bias that you need to consider. But in this case of citizen science, we're all trying to make a change. So, you just have to bear that in mind. And then data and results should all be open access. And if a citizen works on a project, we want you to be acknowledged. So everybody that takes part should get a nod that they were part of this great discovery. And then the evaluation of programs is really important because, you always need to make sure, and I've learned this, I'm always having to evaluate things. It's kind of what we have to do, but, did it make an impact, or was the data quality? Did we collect good information? Or what was the experience of the participants? Did everybody enjoy it? Was it, meaningful? And then, did it really even change society's ideas, or was there an impact? And then finally, the people that are in charge of these really need to make sure that they consider things like legal and ethical considerations regarding copyright, or maybe intellectual property, or even confidentiality, or how we share that data. It's really important. And then, also, is there any environmental impact on what we're doing? Okay, and who can participate? Well, you can see from this list, it's just about anybody. And you may know people in your community that are citizen scientists, you just don't realize it. So I always think that maybe if you were out and you see people that aren't coming into your library, maybe they have something else to offer because they're doing something that you don't know about. Maybe there's amateur citizen scientists on the side, so they might be a new group of people that we can tap. So keep that thought in mind as we go forward here. So we're going to talk about some of these projects that are ongoing, and it's really fascinating, and anybody can get involved in these. So this particular project, the Ottawa Christmas Bird Count, this is a real example of how amateur scientists and people that are just curious observers can really make an impact. So this project has achieved some really remarkable milestones and contributed to some real policy change. So a man by the name of Frank Chapman and 26 of his other conservationist friends initiated this bird count by in way of bringing conservation to people's mindset, because in 1900 when they launched this, one of the traditions on Christmas Day was to do a bird shoot. So they wanted to shift that. They can still do that, but this group of people got out on Christmas and counted them. And it's been going on since 1900. So this year is the 125th anniversary. So people are still counting, and there are over 2,000 active groups, which they call circles, in the United States and Canada. So I think that's really cool. And I love birds. I live in an area that we moved from central Kansas. When we moved to the metro area, we live in Olathe, and we're really out kind of close to the country. We live on a golf course, and so I have 2 fairways and then farm ground. So I see all kinds of birds, and we feed them all the time. And it's just, it's something that I just so appreciate, to have those little creatures in my backyard. And my cat loves to listen to them, but he doesn't go out. So he doesn't get So the next one here is really another one that's been around for a while, but it's also has quite a few participants. So the Great Sunflower Project, which I thought would be meaningful to us because we're the sunflower state, is the largest citizen science project that's focused on pollinators. And there's over 100,000 members. And this project, what it does is it enlists the public just to collect data on the number of pollinators in the area. And what the idea is they're trying to measure the decline of honeybees. And it could be not only just what they're finding, it may not be just climate or environmental changes, but they're looking at the effects of pesticides and how they're impacting pollinators. And not just, when I think of a pollinator, it's not just a bumblebee, but, or a bee, a honeybee. But I always think of, hummingbirds or other, species that are getting out there and pollinating. So this is really cool. And here's one, if you're an astronomy lover, or it's something that you're fascinated by. Citizen science has helped amateur astronomers discover all kinds of new worlds just from the comfort of their computer screen at home. So this project has been going on for 15 years. It's called Galaxy Zoo, and it's on the platform Zooniverse. And what it does is it asks people to classify galaxies according to their shape. And there's thousands of images that are awaiting people to get on there and work with these and work on classifying them. So I have links to these in the handout, and I've got a QR code that you can scan. So if you're wondering how you can access some of this, you'll be able to do that at the end. But it's a fun project. You can go on and do 10 pictures or do 200. Sometimes when I get into some of these, it is like a, no pun intended, black hole, because I just love doing it. It's really fun. If you're a naturalist, we have a project for you, or we have a place for you to work. So, or maybe you know some people in your community that are just nature lovers. But iNaturalist is has a place that you can record your findings and organize what you see in nature. And you can also meet other people that are nature enthusiasts. And you can also learn about just the nature in general, like what's going on in the world. And what this does is it encourages people from all over the world just to, whatever they see, just load it onto this site. And then what the concept is that this information contributes to biodiversity science. And, you know, you might think of, maybe you saw the rarest butterfly out there, or maybe you're just keeping track of invasive weeds in your backyard. Whatever it is, they want to know about it. Because all this data is added to a scientific data repository, like the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. And then scientists can go in and tap this information for their research. So there's an app that you can use, and you can keep track of your information even without a cell phone or Wi-Fi reception. And once you get into that, it'll upload the information. If you're into environmental projects, here's a really interesting one. This is relatively new. You can join the Community Powered Seed Discovery Project. And this is a joint effort between SeedLinked and USDA. And this project allows people to grow, observe, and make observations about unique seed varieties that have been developed to withstand the changes in climates, of the climate changes, pests, and diseases. So, you know, when you plant, share the results, you kind of are being part of maybe building a more resilient food system. And, you know, think about it like one seed at a time. And like I said, it just started January 1st of 2025. So it's just getting started. In the health field, which is kind of what I do, there's some really neat projects out there as well. So this particular one that I'm showing you is a public health focused project. And this one uses the Globe app. On this particular site, you can go and add your information when you observe the behavior of mosquitoes in your population, in your towns, or whatever's going on. And I don't know if that many people, if many of you know that, you know, the mosquito is probably, I think it's about the most dangerous creature out there. So this is really important when it comes to identifying the types of mosquitoes, their habitats, and their breeding grounds, because then people can go in there and learn ways to mitigate risk for their communities. All right, so you're probably wondering, all right, we're great, we've learned about all these, so what does it take to participate and how much work is it? Well, I think the citizen science world at large realized this, so they came up with a way to classify the level of participation. So this is since 2009, these particular categories have been put out there so people can understand what it means, what it takes to be part of this. So there's 3 different ones. One is contributory, second one is collaborative, and then co-created. So let's take a real quick look at each one of those. So contributory is kind of what it sounds like. In this instance, a scientist is going to develop a project, and then they're going to put a call out for people to ask the members of the public, you know, people anywhere and out there, to contribute only data to their research outcome. And this is great for projects where they need a huge amount of data in a wide variety, like a huge global area. It's probably the lowest level of engagement that you have, because basically you do it when you have time and add your information to whatever platform they're using. Like I just mentioned one earlier, a real famous contributory project is that Christmas bird count. Another one is a really interesting project. You'll see it's called Folded. It uses gamification for people to go on and work on this protein folding game. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then there's also various astronomy focused projects. And on that Zooniverse platform, there's all kinds of contributory projects that people can become involved in. You maybe have heard of the term BioBlitz. I don't know how many have heard that. That's getting together and not only tracking birds, but you could, let's say people get together, they're gonna take an area and they're gonna count how many plants or other animals or insects or fungi or whatever is in a particular area. So that's where another part of contributory citizen science is an option. Collaborative, well, okay, collaborative engages the public just a little bit further than a contributory. So while the scientists do all the work behind and creating the project, the level of involvement or the engagement with the community takes it one step further. So people can maybe use some of that citizen science work to go into the classroom. So let's say, you know, students, teachers, anyone that's interested in earth science type of projects can go in and pull some of this information and put it into their classroom or get it into their communities more than just being casual observers. This GLOW program is also known as the Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. It's been around since 1995. So, you know, it uses the work of teachers to validate some of these programs. And then another cool one, and I have a friend that takes part in this, is the Billion Oyster Project. And she lives in Chicago, but she goes to New York City. What this is a citizen science project that people are working on restoring the New York Harbor. And they also tap a lot of different public organizations within the area to work on getting New York Harbor back to where it was years ago. So Billion Oyster Project, I had no idea. And then co-created, well, this is a project that originates and grows from the grassroots. So it may strike up a partnership between the public who knows there's a problem and scientists who want to help solve that problem. These are really kind of shorter term, smaller based projects, but they are really focused on a concern that's really impacting the people that have created the project. And there's a lot of different examples of it, especially in Kansas City. There are a few that are where they research some of the impacts of, say, the flooding that happened within an area that's really close to KU, with what some of the diseases or what happened as a result of funding, or I'm sorry, of the flooding. This is where it's a really good opportunity to leverage your partnerships, you know, when you're trying to study something that's very focused to your area. Weather Blur and Public Lab are some really good online examples of some co-created projects out there. Weather Blur allows citizens to connect with different communities across I guess the United States, maybe globally, I'm not sure, but everyone can conduct their own investigations about weather patterns and kind of share it. So kind of just interesting, the amount of work that people need to be involved. Some it's not too much though. So NNLM, like why are we involved in this? Well, those of us at NNLM, we really like the citizen science because what it does is, you know, there's so much mystery behind research and there's so much scientific discovery for understand it. And there's a lot of barriers. So this is a really easy way to break down those barriers, you know, because I don't think that people understand that even though you're researching something, you know, it sounds so lofty, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, you know, that's pretty repetitive and it requires a lot of information to be gathered. And this is where we come in. You know, those of us that are interested in helping advance some of this, we can sit down and do this. And so it also brings those of us, you know, the public and consumers into this conversation about, you know, how do we solve problems? How do we learn about what causes a certain disease? Or how do we you know, become more aware that, yeah, you know, research really is important. And on top of that, you know, I really think that, you know, citizen science and crowdsourcing is just a really cool way to build community, especially for small communities. for libraries in general. You already have been identified as the innovators and the people in the community that people trust and love. So why not extend that out by offering something different for people to become a part of? You know, take yourself out of that little bit of where you are, your little town, and maybe just Kansas and then the region, what have you. So yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity. So that's kind of why we're interested in it. And also, the National Library of Medicine has some really cool resources, like this Kids Environment, Kids Health. It's got some such great information, and share it with the teachers that you know, because it has a lot of background information, easy to understand definitions for kids, and links to more advanced information that if you're going to offer a project about the environment, you want to get kids involved, this would help you get that information to them in an understanding way. They also have these other resources that are listed here. I don't know, with Medline Plus, you know, that's certainly a great product. That's a great resource for health information. And then OpenEye and MedPix are, I mean, they're great for just biomedical research in general. And they're interesting, while they may not be citizen science projects. When you learn about it, I mean, maybe you would have a reason to use it, or at least share it with somebody in the community. So first of all, we'll take this a little deeper dive into this one. There are so many fun games. There's health information. It helps. This was created, let's see, in 1997, and this was due a presidential memorandum. And the reason why is that they wanted kids to understand their health and how the environment impacted it. And it's still around, which is terrific. So maybe you're going to give it a presentation, or you're going to talk to somebody about a citizen science project, or maybe you just need to provide some resources to kids. This is a good one. And you could maybe even weave this into a summer library program topic. I don't know, but think about that. I'm sure we could make that work. But there's all kinds of free stuff, fact sheets, brochures, they're free to download. Like if you think about some of the environmental things like right now, maybe asthma, maybe there's kids in your community that have asthma. So what about the environment is triggering that? Or maybe we think about allergies in general. What are the things in the environment that are impacting allergy symptoms of kids? Autism has been a topic recently, so maybe looking at how the environment may be a contributor toward some people with autism. And also this really cute book, Sharon Finds the Environment, is available for free. You can download that from this site. And then, I don't know, you maybe know about Medline Plus. If you do, I apologize, but I need to plug it because it is our biggest consumer health information site. And while it may be able to augment some of your citizen science work, as a public, as a resource for consumers, this is really important because, there's so many communities don't have to have a doctor. They don't have anyone in their community to answer questions about health. They don't have any access. Maybe they come into the library because they don't have access at home. And if you do take anything away today to help your community, this is a really good one to link on your website. First of all, it's free of any advertisement or any endorsements, which is great because we're all so flooded with that. But there's information on all kinds of health topics. You can find information on drugs and supplements. There's videos, there's quizzes, there's a medical encyclopedia. There's some easy to understand information because it's written at a really low, the health literacy level is kind of taken down for people that maybe need, they can't relate to it at a 9th grade level, they need it at a 3rd grade level. So I'm really grateful for that. There's multilingual resources. It also links out to some really good information, like let's say from the Mayo Clinic, the Nevers Foundation. I don't know if you're familiar with that, or just other. And it is, you have the option of switching it to Spanish by clicking one button at the top of the landing page. So check it out. If you haven't, check it out. And then OpenEye, the open access biomedical image search engine, is really fascinating to me. This has so many cool photos and images, and maybe because I'm a nurse, I find it fascinating. But there are over 3.7+ million images that come from, the PubMed Central articles which is, the, research database that is maintained by NLM. There's, plus to 7,500 chest X-ray images. There's radiology reports. There's, images from the history of medical collection, and then about 2,100 orthopedic illustrations like these toes over here on the right. You can query images by like dragging and dropping something at the similar, and it'll find you matching images. So this would be great to share with your teachers at your high school or what have you that teach biomedical science topics. And so that brings me to SciStarter. This is probably one of the places that you're going to go to the most if you are get interested in citizen science. This is an online community that is dedicated to improving the whole experience for not only citizen science participants, but project managers. You'll find over 3,000 different projects and events that you can search by location, scientific topic. Let's see. Age level, etc. So it's pretty easy. I'll show you an image of how the searching takes place, because you can pretty much narrow down what you want on this site, which helps you kind of not have to sift through all 3,000 projects. It also has some really great information for project managing and best practices for people that are creating projects, and so how to engage with participants. And so to help libraries get started, when I got, one of the projects that I worked on with SciStarter is we created 2 trainings. One of them is called Foundations of Citizen Science. You can see these cool little badges that you earn when you complete it. And to follow that up, we created foundations of for libraries and libraries as community hubs for citizen science. So you take the first one, and then for librarians only, you take the second one, because it specifically is designed for you. And why we thought about this is, they came to me and asked me about, what do librarians need? I said they need you to tell them how to do it. They don't want you just to give them idea. They want the step by steps. So that's what we did here. It's first educating you on what it is, and then we have a guide that like breaks it down step by step. And so what we wanted people to come away with having more confidence when they launch into this. This is something new and innovative. And we want people to have skills and have competencies, and then get you ready to engage with the people at your patrons at your library, or or wherever the community at large. That foundations module is really helpful because it just starts off with the basics. And then once you get into the next one, you'll discover some of the best practices and things that you would need to know if you were going to engage in projects. And so just to back up a little bit, how this works is that you go in and you just sign up, and it's free. And it'll track your progress, and it'll every time you take part in a project, it keeps a running count for you. So it's just kind of fun. And I go back to it occasionally and just look at some of the projects that I've worked on. It's just they do a really great job. And when you look at it visually, it's such a great site too. All right, so we need to talk about now how we're going to actually bring all this into your library. So first of all, I mentioned, I really believe that you are valuable partners for this kind of project. First of all, I mentioned you're the hub, and what do? We provide access to information. That's just what we love to do. And we also are really good at creating networks. I mean, I know all of you do that. So how can we do it? Well, first of all, you can provide, like I mentioned, resource and access. One of the ideas that I think would be great for anybody that wanted to do this is create some citizen science kits. So let's say you really don't have the capacity to host it, but maybe I could make 2 or 3 kits for families to come in and check out and go in and do this at home or in their own backyard or whatever. That's a really low stakes way of doing this. And I'm sure there's some grants that you could probably get to build these kits. And then online resources. Well, I've given you SciStarter. That's a great place to start. You know, have a link on your website or on your Facebook page or whatever and point people to that. And then you can offer some trainings and workshops and maybe you don't know, you can't teach it, but you could tap somebody in your community, or maybe your staff is really interested in doing something. I know we have a drone person here. I mean, aren't you like drone? Somebody had drones. I mean, where's the drone person? Anyway, I saw somebody with drones. I mean, but that kind of thing, you know, have somebody come and talk and do a 15-minute lunch and learn, you know, for the people to come in and talk about what you have available out there that could help people. And next, you know, host and promote events. The month of April, and I've got a slide for this, is Citizen Science Month. You know, you don't have to do the whole month, but you can pick a day. So let's say you decided to have a day, April Fool's Day is a great day to have a Citizen Science Awareness Day. You might have a community science night. That'd be fun too. You know, have people come in and pick an astronomy project that you can find on SciStarter and have people take part, or if you know some amateur astronomers, maybe they can come in and talk about what they do. And then there's those STEM programs, you know, integrating citizen science. I mean, while it may not appeal to the ladies that like to have a book club, you know, or like cozy mysteries, you know, then you can connect anything. You can connect those dots. I used to do books by mail, so I know all about those books. There's some way to connect all this stuff with what we actually have in our library. So let's look at some resources and some tools that can help you. First of all, here's that project finder. So it's kind of a little hard to see, but it's really easy to search and you can filter it, which is wonderful. You know, work on it, you can filter it to whatever you want, and it will really get you quickly to a list of projects that you can utilize. So maybe somebody wants something that they could do over their lunch break, or, you know, at a stadium, or, and who knows, but they've got some really great filtering. And here's a project, and these are all linked on the handout to SciStarter, so you won't have to dig around, but this is a really nice, I like this project because it's really fascinating because it, what it does is it's first of all, it's international, but the point of this is it's to raise the awareness of light pollution and how it affects not only what we can see in the sky at large, but you know, the waste of energy, how it affects people, like your sleep disorders, maybe you know, how it affects animals and their breeding capabilities. And this is really easy to do. You basically can, you know, you can just measure the night sky brightness and submit your observations on the globe at night site. Easy to do. You go outside, you let your eyes adjust, you know, usually like before the moon rises, 8, depends on when that is, 8 and 10 at night, go out, adjust to the darkness, and then record what you see. You know, and then upload that information. So there's a great online tool to report, and then it also helps raise awareness of light pollution levels. And, you know, I didn't notice this so much until I moved to the city. What I could see in Great Bend, I certainly can't see in Kansas City. And it's an interesting a project, so take a look at it. Debris tracker is also known as the marine debris tracker. It helps over 25 organizations collect data about where litter is showing up across the country. And it doesn't have to be by water, it just happens to be named. I don't know how they do that, but anyway, what the data does is it contributes to a map that's used by researchers that are working on managing pollution worldwide. And so the materials are available in multi-languages and to help people get tracking. And so you can record the location of the debris in your area using their app. If you're out walking, you know, let's say in your neighborhood, you could be on a nature trail, wherever, and it uses GPS data to track the findings. It's available, the app is available for iPhone and Android users. And if you're out there, you can pick up the trash. I See Change is a great global community project, and it documents changes in the environment, weather, and climate. Each post is synced with weather and climate data, and then broadcasts to a larger community just to investigate the big picture climate trends. I mean, I was thinking about this has been one of the wettest springs I've seen in a long time, and we had a lot of snow that we haven't seen for years, so it's. I don't know, we might have climate deniers out there and change deniers out there, but I've been around a while and it's still changing to me. So, and then what they do is they use this information to help communities kind of have insights about what's going on in their area and how it's impacting the people that live there. And stall catchers. This is a really great project for libraries. First of all, let me explain it a little bit. So this was designed by researchers at Cornell to advance Alzheimer's research. And this one focuses on the one aspect of Alzheimer's, and that's reduced blood flow in the brain. So what this is it's a gamified way of tracking blood flow in the brain of mice. And they have thousands and thousands of recordings on this site that people go in, they teach you how to catch the stall. So you'll see the blood flowing and then there might be a stall. And you score it as either flowing or stalled. And what they found is even the most advanced computer technology can't do this work. It takes our work, our eyes to do this work. And I think this is such a great project for libraries because you could create teams. So let's say there's 2 or 3 libraries within an area that want to take part in citizen science. Get some people to create teams of 2 or 3 people, because this will keep track of how many stalls you've caught. And like, let's say you do it for 2 weeks, then you get together and the team that wins, gets a gift card or something like that. But it's one way, kind of a low stakes way of doing citizen science, and it's really meaningful. And again, it's gamified and it's so addicting. I mean, I'm not a gamer, but I like get into this and it's very challenging and you make a difference. So check that one out. And then I've got a couple more. Crowd the Tap. This kind of came up when we Flint, Michigan I think it came out from that, but one of the things is everyone wants to have safe water. So to drink in the United States. And this one identifies areas for tap water testing and infrastructure replacement. So we may have, I don't know about rural America, but might be because there's some older areas that certainly would need that infrastructure replacement. But this one helps people learn about testing, water testing, and they set you up with everything that you need. They connect you with others in the neighborhood if you're going to do a neighborhood type of project to want to make drinking water safe for everyone. And they have resources for libraries to get this project off the ground. I folded, this is the one I mentioned earlier. This is using gamification. It's a really cool computer game that helps people contribute to the research of folding proteins. And what they found is that humans' pattern recognition and our ability to solve puzzles is far more advanced than any computer teaching. We can't teach computers to do that, but we can if we learn about the patterns. So they're hoping that by learning through what we do through this game, that they will be able then to advance protein folding programs through computer, but it's based on human. So, I mean, artificial intelligence is huge out there, but you got to have humans because it only knows what we teach it. So this is an example of learning from our behavior and teaching something to do something for good. And this is not a project, but this might be something that you'd be interested in having in your library or maybe in the kit. So this is a really cool tool. It was founded by a group that wanted to have more access to scientific tools. So this company sells a paper microscope, and they're easy to use and they're easy to store. And they sell sets, classroom sets, or those for teachers, teacher kits, or what have you, but certainly applicable for a library. And with each one they sell, then they provide these kids to places that are, underserved and would need, countries that don't have access to scientific instruments. So, it might be a really great handy kit to have in your library. So this one, this is one last project that I'm gonna talk to you about. I don't know if you ever heard of flu near you. So you can go on, and what this is a really great public health tracking tool. And you basically just go on, you say, it asks you some questions like, how are you feeling? And you just tell it. So then it basically lets public health people know what the actual public is experiencing. And it's kind of hard to see it, but you've got the pink is COVID type symptoms, and then flu symptoms, no symptoms, or zero symptoms, and then no symptoms. So it just asks pretty simple questions, and then that's it. And it's anonymous and what have you, but it just kind of helps inform how people are feeling. And flu season is going to be here before we know it, and every year it's different. So it's something that was created by the people at Boston Children's Hospital and the American Public Health Association. So they're interested in keeping us healthy. So if you're interested in being part of that, easy, low stakes. Right, so how can a busy, small public library possibly do anything like this, especially if you're understaffed? Well, you can partner with your neighbors. So I think this is the best way to get some of these projects off the ground. Found your area on the Kansas State Library website. So one of the things you can do is meet up with your friends and their librarian friends, and maybe find a project that might be interesting to the people, your patrons in the community. And then work to, brainstorm on what could work, what's gonna, how it's gonna be a win-win for everybody. Like, you're only there 15 hours a week, and you're only there 15 hours a week. So maybe you can only give 1 hour, but you could easily find something to do. And then tap local members who might have some interest, like maybe there's a beekeeper in your area that would come and talk about bees and what they do. Or maybe there's somebody that loves amateur astronomy. I mean, who knows? Or get the extension agency to come out and talk about the problems that they've noticed. And then, engage in that friendly competition, like I mentioned with stall catchers. That's pretty easy. Just little things like that. And then again, like I mentioned, you can partner or involve local groups. So your conservation organizations are a great place to start. I don't know if there's any nature conservancies around here. There might be that you could reach out, maybe not necessarily in your county, but maybe in a neighboring area. The parks departments are great partners for this. Extension offices, like I mentioned, or anybody that's doing local research. If there's a community college in the area, great people to tap. This particular picture is a friend of mine on the East Coast, and they have a watershed association, and they get out and they do a run and et cetera, and they get out and they explore out in the woods. Think out of the box a little bit about who in my community could I involve that has an interest and a passion about some of this stuff, and they will bring that into your library. And then just the other organizations, schools, great place. I know school's out right now, but you plan for Citizen Science Month in April. Talk with the teachers and see if that's a possibility. Businesses are a great place to go to, maybe, I don't know, the co-op or what have you. They might be interested, especially the Seed Project. Nonprofit groups always are happy to lend a hand with a lot of projects. And your community centers, not only they would be good partners to hold an event or to at least, put out the information that you're to promote what you're doing. The idea is once that information gets out there, you might get more patrons. You might find people that want to come into the library and use your resources more because you're kind of tapping into something that speaks to them. And here is the library's guide to citizen science. And there's a link on this in the handout that I'm going to show you the QR code for. But this is made just for you. And you can learn more about citizen science, discover, the ways to find out what works for your community. helps you plan a citizen science day, and this is June, so April's a long way away, so no time to start planning, like start now. And also can kind of sustain some ongoing engagement. A lot of great tips here. And then April is Citizen Science Month. I mentioned that again. And this is a fun time to just you pick one day. You don't even have to do anything. You just tell people this is the month. Maybe point them to SciStarter. Promote some of those kits that you have. And if that's all you can do, that's a lot, in my opinion. There's no act that's too small when you get more innovative and engagement within your community. And then I've got a few books here that might be, kind of a low stakes way to involve the community. You can do a book display. If that's that's what you could do for April, just do a book display. Find some things out there that you could maybe make a poster or do like a bulletin board, and then you can either IRL these or you can purchase them or whatever. Let me talk, the one on this one here, Citizen Science by Mary Ellen Hannibal, is very interesting because it's written from the perspective of individuals who benefit from their efforts of taking part in these projects. The one in the middle, Citizen Science, this guide, was written by my friend at SciStarter, Darlene Cavalier. Darlene's a really dynamic person. She co-authored this with Karen Cooper, who wrote the other book, and one of her staff, and it's just tells you all kinds of things about citizen science. And it's a field guide. So it's a great resource for anyone. Your public, or whatever, anybody that would come in and be interested. And then the last book, the Citizen Science, How Ordinary People Are Changing the Face of Discovery, is a really good overview topic book. And finally, there's a really nice website, and I was just on it the other day, and it's called Citizen Science Theory and Practice. So it's an open access, peer-reviewed site for publications about all the work being done in citizen science. And then here's a few apps. iNaturalist I mentioned earlier. So here's the app that you can record your observations and learn about nature. Great platform if you wanted to do a BioBlitz. And they also have this app called Seek. And this is great. You can use this to identify plants and weeds or whatever else in your garden. It's a really, really a great app to use. So one way that you could bring these apps to libraries is maybe post them on your Facebook page, like the nature app of the week or something like that. Check this one out. Just little ways of thinking about how to get these out to people. This is one of my favorites. Have any of you used the Merlin bird app? It's so fun. So this one is one that if you don't know what kind of bird it is, you can go in and answer 3 questions, and then they'll give you a list of possibilities. And it's a great app. I think it also has the one where you can record the sound. So if you hear bird song, you can turn it on and put it out there, and it's going to give you all the different possibilities of what bird that might be. So great one. This is created by Cornell Lab. Also, if you're lucky enough to catch a photograph of a bird, they have a photo ID, and they'll give you like some possible matches. So really great tool, again, to introduce to your patrons, and just very fascinating. Here's one that's called Budburst, and this is created by the Chicago Botanic Garden. So with this app, people work with researchers and educators and horticulturists to do some questions about the plant life cycle. And so you can go in and record your observations and learn about, which I think is important, especially in Kansas. I know we had a lot of invasive species in a lot of areas in Kansas. So this one is really good for identifying invasive species in an area, so they can take this data and work to eradicate some of that. So, it's really important that we all need to work together when it comes to invasive species. And I always kind of go back to that, because I live next to Wilson Reservoir, and they're always talking about, what is that? There's a a mollusk or something that attaches to a boat. Zebra. Yeah, the zebra, yeah. So I think about, that invasive species don't just grow out of the ground, they're everywhere. So while this is bud burst, you have to be conscious of that, so. All right, so we're just to recap, I'm kind of at the end of my talk. Why, why is this so important? Why do we do it? Well, first of all, you guys are very innovative, and we're always looking at new ways to provide information to our patrons and to our communities, and be the people that are thinking up the options. And that's for libraries, that's a really, really, sometimes that's hard, especially with our low budgets and the amount of time and energy we have. But it also builds community, and that range of engagement is, as much engagement or as little as you want. It's just exposing people to the options out there. People can do it in person, they can do it virtually, it doesn't really matter. It's a great family activity, we're looking for more things for families to do that don't cost a lot of money. That just provide a sense of, getting people together and getting kids, maybe they'd like to be on a screen. Well, I would rather see a kid doing iNaturalist or some of this stuff than whatever else they're doing on it. So it's really good for that. And then I really just think it's fun. Like literally, if you try some of these things, you're gonna get hooked. I can't, like some days like, I can't spend 2 hours doing identifying stalls. Well, sure I can, why not? And so I just have a final question for you. Did any of these projects I talked to you about today interesting? Anybody see themselves out there doing them? Anybody want to shout one out?
The first looks fun.
Yeah.
The first.
Yeah. Yeah, really fun. Well, dude, don't discount that stall catcher because that is really engaging. So, do any of you see that you could maybe use some of this to get your patrons and give them some info, or maybe start with the teens? Maybe the teens would be the market to hit that. They might, especially the gamification ones. So, yeah. Great. The sunflower one is neat. It's cool, but one other thing about it is you have to grow a specific kind of sunflower, but they can tell you where to get those seeds. But yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of possibilities out there. So finally, if you're interested in my slides or the resource list, you can snap this. I can share links to these. I can send you links.
I'm gonna go ahead and, today we'll make sure that everybody gets these sent to.
Yeah, these are, if you go on and do this, the resource one, I've linked them. So it's a little easier for your searching. Or, you could send out I can send you the link. I'll email it to you and then email it to them because it'll download the copy of the document.
How many pages is the resource?
2 or 3.
Okay, I was talking to Carol, we might actually go ahead and head over to the library and get a print copy of that, make sure
Oh,
you guys have an opportunity to have that on hand, but we'll make sure you get the electronic copy too.
yeah, and if you go to SciStarter and put any of these names in, is it working for everybody? Okay, good. Good. Well, it's been a pleasure to be here with you all, and if you ever have any questions or anything, just feel free to ask me, or if you need some thoughts on how to work on these things and whatever.
We actually got a few more minutes. Does anybody have any questions for her right now?
I probably have loaded your brain on the floor.
Okay. This afternoon, the extension office will be one of the presenters, and I know that a lot of the resources that she was talking about, the extension office will be very happy. I just talked to them over there getting it set up and stuff, and they actually have 2 dot grants that they're going to be working with for K-State and with agriculture. So they've got some extra funding to probably help out with some of the. So, an extension office is definitely someone that you want to go ahead and contact. And I know if you are not sure who your representative is, Krista will make sure that she will get you connected. I appreciate you, coming. I know you're headed to Tulsa, so I hope are you gonna join us for lunch at least?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. When we go over to lunch, what I would, I've already talked to a couple of the presenters. We're gonna try to spread them out, and if you're interested in a particular organization, I would encourage you to sit with that table. And so with you, I would like to, if you would go ahead and sit at the table, and if you've got any more questions for her, then I would strongly suggest that you do that. Go ahead and spread out a little bit when we get over there and meet some new folks. So again, we have the recording of this, so if any of your staff, you think that they would be interested in this, we'll make sure that that's available for them and then for the other libraries. And then when you were talking, one population that we have in our area that I think would be very interested in this is our retired professionals. Retired, especially in Pittsburgh, you probably have a lot of retired health folks that would be related or interested in this. And there's about 6 of these things I know my wife would be interested in for bird watching and stuff like that, even though I yell at her because of all the bird seed that we have on our front porch. But I guess I just have to live with that. But maybe I could go ahead and have her more focused on these projects. So unless anybody has any questions, I hope that you guys got something out of this. And I think this was a good start for the day. So thank you.
Margie, could you say a little bit more about the stall?